Hello, friend. It's been a little while since I made a video, and I wanted to talk about...
There are ways to grow edible mushrooms that don't...
Not edible mushrooms, but I do a lot of research for my job about mushrooms. But no, I was going to talk about relationship stuff and why it's really important to, for me at least, to learn about my attachment style and that of my partner, because, you know, you can learn a lot about yourself and it can help you build a better relationship with your inner being. And I'm a big fan of healthy relationship tools. Someone that I have come across just recently, which has just been as big of a game changer for me as finding Edward Art's teachings. So the name is Dr. Stan Tatkin, Tatkin. He has a new book out called In Each Other's Care, and he talks about relationships and having a healthy relationship with a partner. If you're going to be with someone, might as well be a good relationship. It should be healthy. And I've talked enough, off and on, over the years, over the last 6 years, well, 5 really. I haven't even been making videos that many years, but I have been having issues in my personal relationship for the last 5-6 years. And I have learned a lot, I have grown a lot, and I have been finding ways, tools to help me inhabit the states that I want to experience. It is not easy to do that if you are in chronic stress and a resistance with someone that you live with and that you love. And so for me, I needed to create some space so that I could take care of myself, so that I could regulate my nervous system and get out of the fight, flight, or freeze response, which is so deeply connected to your body, your brain, your nervous system. It's all entwined. It's not just one or the other. It's the whole thing. And when your nervous system is dysregulated chronically, it affects every aspect of your life. Does the law of assumption help? Well, it has helped me. Yes. I have lost my shit a whole lot less because of the law of assumption teachings. But even just a week or so ago, I was, that's part of this human experience, is we remember, then we forget. We remember, then we forget. And that's okay. I think the key is to just keep persisting in giving yourself what you want and being very observant and aware of what you're giving to yourself. Something that I think is really interesting when I think about the law of assumption is that this world is a mirror, and everyone is just mirroring back to you what you're giving to yourself. And so I think I have made a lot of assumptions and misperceptions concerning what I'm giving to myself. And my partner reflected a lot of that back to me. And I was also getting kind of stuck and tangled up in a lot of resistance and having, and I've talked about this before, justified resentments. And it really is hard to hold on to justified resentments when you're following the law of assumption, because everyone is just mirroring back to you what you're giving to yourself. So if you believe that, it shouldn't be so difficult to give yourself what you want. But it can feel complex, and it takes practice to alter patterns that we maybe have been doing since we were very little. And those can often be referred to as coping strategies. They're not all healthy. They're not usually very healthy. This is why therapy I think, is a really good idea. But not just any kind of therapy. Talking is helpful. But for me, I want tools that will help me help myself. This is why I really like the law of assumption. This is why I liked the law of attraction. I still do. But when I started getting into Edward Hurt's teachings, I really took a deep dive, and I had a lot of stuff, internal stuff, to work through because I didn't have a good relationship with myself. And that means I didn't have a really clear understanding of my relationship with my inner being. And that showed up in my relationships and in my outer world. And it was definitely reflected back to me. And I've gone through a lot of experiences where I didn't understand why things were the way they were and why people behaved the way they did. And just, a lot of unwanted at times. And so for me, just really wanting to be at peace and to have a loving, healthy relationship with the person that I love became the most important thing that I could give to myself. And to do that, I needed to have some space to be able to give that to myself. And I'm glad that I've done this, because it's giving me time to understand more clearly what I want to give to myself. And I cannot recommend strongly enough anything by Stan Tatkin, because it's so incredibly helpful to know what's going on in your life. And if you can listen to a person who makes things more clear, then you can kind of just be like, oh, I get it. I get that now. And I don't have to take things personally, because, see, on one hand, yeah, we have all these things that we can give to ourselves in our inner world, and we can build this amazing relationship with our inner being if we, if we do that, right? Or But then a lot of times things in the outer make it kind of just feel confusing, or there's so much resistance or distraction that it can feel really hard to figure things out, because you might feel like you're doing everything that you can be doing to make things better in your life, and it doesn't always feel like it's working, right? So I do believe in clear understanding. And also, Stan talks about agreements. When you're in a relationship with another person, you should be very clear about your agreements with that person. If you leave everything to be ambiguous and built on how you are feeling in the moment, you can start to have a lot of feelings that are not necessarily lined up with reality. And by that I mean we make up narratives, and we make up stories based on memories about everything around us. So that's part of the way the brain is kind of wired for humans, and it's what keeps us alive, and not expending unnecessary energy, because the sense world, the material world, is constantly flooding in, giving us data, and our brain has to sort and sift through all of that, and there's a lot that it just blocks out just to keep things from being too much, because it's a lot of stimulus. And so I really like understanding myself and learning about myself. And the more that I learn, the more that I become self-aware and consciously observant about myself, the greater my happiness is, the greater well-being that I tend to feel. And part of that, I've always enjoyed psychology, and I like to think that I'm meshing what I'm learning from Stan Tatkin's work with what I've been learning from the law of assumption. And much of it is through Edward Art's work, but there are other people that I listen to that I enjoy as well, like Rose from The Rosie Life. I do like her the way she teaches, because she's really consistent, and she's speaking the truth. I've not ever heard her say anything contradictory, and if anything, she tends to uncover layers that I hadn't thought of, and I like it. I like that. So, because like I was just listening to her the other day, and she said, there's just no one way to do anything, and this is true. You can, give yourself whatever you want. And the way I don't remember, it's been a really long day, but she laid it out in a way that I was like, yeah, that's good stuff. I like that. This is one of her recent videos. If you check her out, I think you'll like it. But anyways, back to Stan Tatkin, and back to giving yourself what you want. I always thought I was giving myself what I wanted, but I don't believe that I was actually doing that in a effective way. Now, when I look back, I think, yeah, I don't think I was being always being very clear with myself. So I guess it's not really a big surprise that it was being mirrored back to me. A lot of things that just weren't clear and confusing and hurtful, because I believe that I was being really careless with myself, and what I was giving to myself. And I think it's actually quite normal, because a lot of the things that we do to ourselves, we do them as coping mechanisms from when we were very young, and trying to make sense and feel safe in the world, because I don't think we come out into this world being really clear and conscious and knowing, what we want as opposed to what we don't want. I mean, other than just, reactions of what we don't want, but not necessarily having the tools to do something about it. So I am in such a better place today than I was a month and a half ago, almost 2 months ago. And I believe that when you want your life to be as good as it can be, and you ask, you say, how can that be? What can you, how can you help me? You ask your inner being. That's right. That the way will be made if you will just be open and receptive. And I did, and it wasn't easy, and I feel a lot of positive, optimistic faith that everything is working out beautifully. And I don't know how things will unfold specifically. I just know that things have been better than I could have imagined. I didn't actually, write all this out and then experience it. I just gave myself the space and the willingness to allow something better to come and help me, and to be receptive to receive it. And as a result, my partner, my partner and I, we are communicating, and it's coming from a place of authentic willingness and love, and it's better than it was 2 months ago. And I believe that it's because I stopped focusing on my partner, and I started focusing on myself and what I want to give to myself. And one of the first things I said to myself was that I wanted to have a healthy relationship with my inner being. I've had people write to me and ask me, for more understanding about their inner being, or how to have a relationship with their inner being. And honestly, it's just being good to yourself. Treating yourself like you would treat somebody that you really love, the way that you will make space for someone that you love, the way that you will listen to someone that you love, and the way that you will open your heart to be of service and help someone that you love. These are all the things that your inner being wants too. And have a healthy relationship with your inner being means to be receptive, to listen, and to allow yourself to express everything that it's feeling, and to not tell lies to yourself, because there are narratives that you can tell yourself that are not true, and that's not a loving thing to do. And it can cause you pain and suffering if you do that. And if you do that, it's okay. We all do it. But it's being aware when you are doing it that helps you move from doing that into giving yourself something different, something better, which is telling yourself the truth. And the truth is, you are so wonderful. You are so precious, and you deserve to feel like you can have, be, or do whatever you want, and give that to yourself. Like, give yourself permission to feel like you deserve that. Just to feel like you deserve that is a pretty big thing, because oftentimes we will show up and we will be that way with others, but we won't necessarily show up and be that way for ourselves. And we will talk ourselves out of so much wonderful joy, just so much, like, we're deserving, we have worth. And when we don't give ourselves the space and grace that we deserve, it's hard to show up and really experience your life in a way that's beautiful and natural, because then resistance will keep cropping up and saying, and kind of rearing its ugly head, and then it's really easy to get tangled up in narratives that aren't true. And so that's why I say, tell the truth about yourself, because if it feels good, it's probably true. It's probably a good narrative to tell yourself. If you're telling narratives about other people that are toxic or ugly or angry or unkind, that's fine. But I think those are the perfect opportunity to inquire what you're giving to yourself. Because if you're seeing that reflected in someone else, it's very likely that you're giving that to yourself. And I know that that's a hard pill to swallow, because we want to blame the other for whatever it is that we have an issue about. However, I just don't think it works that way. I think it's a trap that people get caught up in, and it keeps you blind to the truth. And so being here in this space where I'm able to be relaxed and live my life with pretty much no stress, just a willingness to do what makes me feel good on a daily basis has been the most wonderful experience. And I know that's not always something that a person thinks they can do. You know, we live in a kind of a hectic outer world, but if you think about it, it's just a reflection of our inner world. And if your inner world is hectic and stressful, your outer world will reflect that. And the more peaceful your inner world is, the more your outer world will reflect that. And my world has been reflecting to me a lot of good things, a lot of peace, a lot of understanding and appreciation. Just every opportunity just feels like an opportunity to give myself what I want. And it does feel different to come at it from that perspective. So I understand myself more than I did before, and my partner. Excuse me. And I've let us both off the hook as far as holding on to anything, any justified resentments. They're just useless. They do pop into my mind, and that's the thing. Your mind wants to hang on to negative narratives, but you can train it through persistence to focus on narratives that are wanted by you, that are more in line with the truth of you. And you're the only one who can give that to yourself. And that is the truth. You don't have to take my word for it. You can test it out yourself and see what you think. So, anyways, again, I highly recommend watching anything with Stan Tatkin on it from YouTube. And also recommend YouTube Premium so that you don't have to be inundated with ads because they're terrible. And I also recommend his books. I just recently put on my Kindle his newest, which is called In Care of Us, and Wired for Love is the other one. And I really enjoy them. They're incredibly helpful. I'm using them to help me give myself what I want when it comes to my relationship. Because, you know, you can use the law of assumption all you want. It's very powerful and it works. But I will tell you this. If you don't know what you want, it's probably going to be hard to give yourself what you want, especially if it's something you've never really experienced or had before, in a concrete kind of way. You can imagine it, but it might feel a little, vague. And I think that's something that people have reached out to me about over and over, is they want to understand, but some of the concepts seem vague. How to imagine and give yourself what you want in your imagination. If you have struggled with this, then perhaps listening to Stan Tatkin will help you to have more concrete tools, so that you can take those tools, and then you can give those things to yourself in your imagination, in your heart, and to your inner being, to receive these tools, use them, and then you'll start seeing that. Use them with your inner being. Build that relationship there first. That is the most important relationship you can have. Excuse me. But I think that's the one that counts. And then all your relationships will spring from that relationship. And I'm seeing the truth of that in my own relationship with myself, but also with my partner. Things that I struggled with, even while doing the law of assumption. I am in a different state of understanding with these tools that I'm talking to you about, these relationship tools, because, well, there's nothing more important than having a healthy, satisfying relationship with yourself first and foremost, and then with anyone else. But you see, if you have it with yourself first, it's going to be reflected back to you by others. And if somebody isn't reflecting that back to you, you can inquire within, and you can see more clearly. You're not going to get offended by someone else. You're just going to go within, and you're going to see where you might be able to give yourself what you want, and then let it all fall into place, because you're showing up for yourself. You're not abandoning yourself. You're having a relationship with yourself that is authentic and natural and truthful. And I think that's probably the best realization that I've come to date, is that if I wanted to be happy in my relationships with anyone, I needed to have a really good relationship, a really genuinely deep and satisfying relationship with myself, with my own inner being. And it's possible to do that. And it starts with being honest and having healthy communication with yourself. If you want it with anyone else, it starts with you. And so, yeah, that's that's all I really wanted to share. It's probably a really long video just to say have a really healthy relationship with yourself, and everything else will get better. It is the truth, and it's what my experience has been. It's, a lot has happened in the last 2 months, and it has been really good. Even the parts that didn't feel so good, because that happens when things are kind of shaken loose, and you're sussing things out and giving yourself what you want. Sometimes you have to see what you were giving yourself that you don't want, and then it can transform, and it does transform. But you have to be willing to allow that to happen. So I hope that there was something meaningful in all of that for you. And until we talk again, friend, much love.